Hello VITA students, this is your teacher Roy with a video demonstrating how to use the Practice Lab software that we're going to use for scenarios 7, 8, and 9. So to get to Practice Lab, let's get the syllabus and resource page up. I've already shown you the links to download the test file, here this form 6744, and our resources, this VITA resources and training guide. But the online tests and the software are located here at the VITA TCE Central site. Here's that practice lab software. And eventually, when we finish doing the exam on the PDF file, we would go to this certification test link and do the same questions, answer the same questions. Now, the online tests and the practice lab software are still the 2024 versions, and we're waiting for 2025. Today's date I'm recording this video is October 11th, and the software, well, really the certification test won't be available online for 2025 until maybe mid or late November. Same thing probably with the software. But we probably can answer most of the questions on the PDF file with using the 2024 version of the software. So that's what I'm going to be demonstrating here. Okay, so let me go into Practice Lab. And you need to enter the universal password here. And I'll eventually tell you what it is on posting in our class site. So let me enter that. And you need to create your own username and password for Practice Lab. This is not the same account you already have for the VITA tests. Yeah, that's a separate account. So go ahead and create an account. I have one already set up, really from previous years. You can see all the different accounts I have, yeah. So I think I'm using this one here and logging in. So on this page, this home page, you can see links for resources to use Practice Lab. But to get the software started, here, click on the Go to Practice Area link. And you can see the version of the software is not 2025 that we need to use, but the previous year, 2024. So eventually you'll see 2025 up here. And maybe you'll be able to go back and also do previous year's versions of the software. You can see at this link here, tax returns I've already completed. Let me click on it, click client search. So these three returns are really from the previous year's VITA certification test, the advanced certification. So if I want to continue, I just can click on the link over here for each of these returns. But let me go back to the previous screen. And before I start a new return, again using the 2025 data, even though this is the 2024 version of the software, let's go over the facts of the tax return. So let me switch screens here. So here's our exam PDF file, and I'm doing the advanced certification. I know the page number here in this file already. Scenario number 7 begins on page 86. Oh, if you have the printed version of the test file, it's on page 81. So what we have is a couple, Martin and Yvette Willis. Again, we're told to use the tax software, which is our Practice Lab software. And we're given interview notes. So this is information we would gather by talking with the taxpayers. I think a lot of this is kind of presumptuous. A lot of this information probably could be derived by looking at the previous year's tax return. Remember, we're doing 2025, and hopefully they've brought a printed copy of their 2024 tax returns. Or maybe we have access online to their 2024 tax return as we do their 2025 return. So we're told that Martin is a grade school teacher, and they're going to be filing joint return. Again, I would confirm that they probably did the same thing in the previous year. We're told Martin has worked 1,600 hours at his job. So teachers from K to 12 can claim a special deductions for any kind of supplies they use in their classrooms or even cost for professional development for their teaching jobs up to $300. In this case, Martin only spent 275. So we need to eventually find a place in the input area of the tax software to enter that $275. We're told that Yvette had retired back in 2022, specifically collecting her pension on beginning on November 1st of 2022. And in past years, that means 2022, 2023, 2024, she's already collected tax-free 120 $1,259 out of her pension. And we're going to see we need to use a feature in the software called the simplified method worksheet. It's maybe updated every year. And again, even though we're doing 2024 for software here, I'm going to show you maybe a trick of how to calculate the amount that's tax-free based upon this number here. We're also told that Martin had an agreement with his credit card company to forgive him some amount he had owed, and that's reported to him on this form 1099-C, cancellation of debt. All of this is going to be taxable. Yvette has won a $500 prize. Even though we're not given a tax form, we use the taxpayers' information they're giving us, and in this case, all of it will be taxable income to her. They have a daughter, Abby. She's in college, her second year, and her tuition and scholarship information is given to us on this form 1098-T. Because this is the second year, again, I would confirm by going back to the previous year to see if there's a so-called education tax credit being claimed in that previous year. Okay, and to be able to qualify for the better of two different education credits, our student Abby shouldn't have any felony drug convictions. All of them are citizens, and here you can see where we have their social security cards. Remember, at VITA, we're also required to get some type of photo ID for the taxpayers. That's Martin and Yvette, not necessarily a photo ID for Abby, although we need to see her card, yeah, social security card, all of their social security cards. And of course, before we start doing the return, we have the taxpayers fill out the intake sheet. Here is nicely typed out in a real life situation. It's going to all be handwritten. And you, as the preparer, you can mark it up just to add any kind of notes to help you prepare the return and to help whoever's reviewing follow along as how you had prepared the return. Making sure any of these gray areas you as the preparer have to fill out. In this case, making sure that Abby still does qualify as their dependent. And again, I would go back and take a look at the previous year, making sure Abby also was being claimed probably as a dependent. And here, check off any type of income or deductions. And again, here on the gray side, we need to confirm and follow up that we're entering that information, asking follow-up questions from the taxpayers. Let's see here. We have something written. This is Yvette's prize drawing. This is the $500 income we got. Typically, prizes may not have any tax forms issued to the taxpayer if the amount is under 600. So we just take the taxpayer's word that the amount they have received during the year. Okay, so we make sure we follow up with any of these items that are checked off. Again, we need to complete the gray area over here as the preparer. And some miscellaneous information we may need to enter. Doesn't affect the taxes, but we may need to enter into the software. Any notes to ourselves here or throughout the whole intake sheet, you can mark it up. Depending upon your site, they may either give it back to the taxpayers, or the sites I've seen, the sites may keep this intake sheet, including maybe a copy of the W-2 form. In this case, just for Martin, since he's working. In the case of Yvette, here's her pension income reported to her on this 1099-R. So you notice this box is empty, the amount that's taxable out of this 22,100. We, the preparer, have to determine the amount that's taxable. Again, I would look back in the prior year to see if there's any calculation. And again, we're going to have to do something called the simplified method worksheet, because over her remaining life, she's going to collect, or their remaining lives, they're going to collect tax-free this $15,000. Again, you spread that over their life, reducing the amount that's taxable. Make sure you pick up this withholding, yeah? Federal income tax withholding, yeah? This federal income tax withholding. In fact, we're going to be entering every single number on this whole form into the software. And we should probably be marking off the numbers on this paper form or PDF form as we enter it into the software, making sure we don't skip anything or double count anything. So here's Yvette's Social Security. Here's her benefit. Here's how much was taken out for Medicare insurance. This is the amount that is being collected, though, yeah? And we need to calculate how much is taxable. Don't forget to pick up any tax withholdings. And here's Martin's cancellation of debt. All of this 850 will be taxable. And Abby's tuition and scholarship. Notice that she's more than half time, so she probably will qualify for the American Opportunity. Well, the taxpayers, not Abby, or their parents qualify for the American Opportunity Tax Credit. And additional costs for higher education. Let's see. There's books here, yeah? Parking don't count, yeah? There's books over here or supplies. And a check we're going to use this the routing number and the account number to have their refund direct deposited into this checking account. Okay, and of course, maybe the thing to do is kind of look at the questions, yeah, to see if we can know what to look out for. So we ask here the taxable portion of Yvette's pension. Okay, again, using that simplified method worksheet. Let's see. Well, it says not eligible to claim the credit for other dependents. So as we've learned that there's generally two types of credits for dependents. A $2,000 could be $2,200 now for 2025 credit for qualifying children, or a $500 credit for other dependent. Okay, here make sure you pick up any kind of negative words in the question itself. Yeah, they'll turn the question just right around in terms of how you answered. Yeah. And the amount of other income that's reported, okay, subtotaled on schedule number 1. Definitely the cancellation of debt and the price probably will be located on this schedule. And if Martin is eligible to claim an education deduction, an educator deduction, that $200 amount he had paid out, yeah? And the standard deduction for our couple, keeping in mind they get the regular standard deduction plus anything for age, if either one of them are over 65 or older or blind. And again, American Opportunity Tax Credit. How much of Yvette's Social Security income will be taxable? And the total amount of federal income taxes they've already paid through withholdings. Okay, let's get started with the entering it into the software. Let's go back to the beginning here. I'll start off with the Social Security cards. And let's take a look at, again, the tax layer. We're going to start the return, clicking on this link. And the first thing it asks is the taxpayer's Social Security number. So I would use the same number of the first person listed on the previous year's tax return. I'm assuming that's Martin. So 41600, typically 00 here in the middle is not an allowed set of digits, yeah, but and some softwares will reject that, but not in our case here for the practice lab. And we'll make up um, the last four digits, and we'll keep the last four digits here and here all the same to be consistent, yeah, easier to remember. 41600. 416, the double zeros are already there, and I'll use 4 ones and confirm again. And enter. I'm waiting. There's already a return using that number. Okay, maybe I did it last year. Oh, really? Yeah, this is last year's software. Yeah. So let's go 0, 100, 0, 100, and enter. So this is the first screen. If my internet connection is faster, I can do it better. Okay, so we're on the basic information here. And the first thing we need to do is choose the filing status. We're told they're filing a joint return. So let's continue. And then the taxpayer's name. I'm going to move my data here onto another screen that you cannot see. So I can see both at the same time instead of switching back and forth. So we're dealing with the Social Security number I've already entered is for Martin. Some people like to keep the caps lock on, but I get confused when I leave it on, so I'll leave it off. So Martin, and the best way to move to the next field is to tab, tab. And Willis is the last name. Here's the Social Security number I've already entered. And birth date, that should be possibly on the taxpayer's photo ID, the driver's license. Oh, I see it right on the intake sheet. Again, let me just show it to you right here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. It's 0501 1964. And I tab occupation. I would pretty much use what the taxpayer wrote on the intake sheet. Yeah. And if you see maybe an occupation change, you always got to be aware maybe there's a couple different W-2s or more for that taxpayer during the year. Let's see if any of these apply. The taxpayer can be claimed as a dependent. that wasn't checked off. Remember, the taxpayer is claiming a dependent, Abby, but the taxpayer is not being claimed by a dependent by anybody else. Taxpayer was over age 18 and a full-time student. We're not talking about Abby, we're talking about Martin here. Taxpayer wasn't blind, he didn't check off. Taxpayer is not deceased, he's right in front of me as I interview him. The taxpayer wishes to contribute $3 to the presidential election campaign. And that was checked off here on the intake sheet, right here. And Yvette didn't check it off for herself. So, yes for Martin here. Taxpayer or spouse served in a combat zone? No. Taxpayer was affected by a natural disaster? No. Taxpayer received or sold or disposed of, let's see, digital asset, that's cryptocurrency. That wasn't checked off on the intake sheet. Taxpayer prefers to receive written communication. I'll leave this blank. Taxpayer receives. VITA can do non-resident alien returns, but that requires another type of certification and not the advanced certification we're doing. So let's work with entering Yvette's information. Again, I'm looking at her Social Security card and not necessarily the name they put on the intake sheet. Yeah. Okay. So make sure the last name is what's on the card here. Sometimes spouses use their unmarried name, their previous name. Even if they get married but they didn't contact the Social Security Administration with a name change, I would use their old name. What's on the card? What's on the latest Social Security card? Her number 60800, and I'll use the same last four digits I used for Martin. Birth date, again, either on the intake sheet or driver's license. And she's entered herself as retired on the intake sheet. Okay, so none of these would apply. Their address. This is their official address that the IRS can use to contact them. And it can be a P.O. box. What I'm doing is I'm looking at their intake sheet address and I'm going to confirm with the taxpayers this is the address they want to use. We're told to use our zip code. Yeah, so here's our, let's see, 9696822. Is that our campus address, zip code? Here in Honolulu, Hawaii. We're assuming they're Hawaii residents. A Hawaii tax return is going to be prepared for them. And I'll just make up a phone number here. Okay, let's continue. So it's asking for Hawaii return. And just like the federal, there's this question asking about using tax dollars that you've already paid to allocate to the election campaign fund. I'll just leave it blank and continue. So are we claiming a dependent? Yes, that's Abby. Continue. So now I'm looking at Abby's Social Security card. And according to the intake sheet, her birth date is July 5th, 2005. Now I'm going to go back to the Social Security card. 60800. And again, the same last four digits. Was this individual, to check this box if the dependent does not have a social security number. Was this individual a U.S. citizen? Yes, according to the intake sheet. The relationship, she's the daughter. And she lived with the parents for 12 months. Being away to school, dorming, is still considered to be living at home. If this dependent was born in 2024, you would select 12 months anyway. This person was over age 18 and a full-time student at an eligible education institution. Um, yes. Okay, I would confirm, even though that um, Form 1098T says at least half-time, I need to confirm also whether she's a full-time student, at least for one semester, if you're over 18 or over here. Check if this person was disabled. That wasn't indicated on the intake sheet. Check if this is a qualifying child, not your dependent. She is the dependent. Check if you wish not to claim. We are claiming her for any types of credits. Check if this dependent is married. She's not married. This individual made over $5,050. Again, I would confirm that, but it's not, it's a moot point because she would meet this requirement up here. This dependent qualifies for multiple support declaration. Again, that's not an issue. Our taxpayers are claiming Abby. So let's continue. So what am I missing here? Social Security number cannot be the same as the taxpayer's spouse. I thought this, yeah, it's not the same. What did I enter for the taxpayer? I'm going to just change the number here slightly. Did I enter the wrong number for the taxpayer or spouse? Again, I'm going to show you my screen, the facts here. I'm trying to use these numbers here. Maybe I picked up this number here for either Martin or Yvette, yeah? But I'm not going to back and correct it, but you should, yeah, in a real life situation. I'm just changing the digit over here for Abby. Continue. Okay, and if you have more dependents, just click on this button here. We're in this federal section and the income subsection, and here's all the different types of income from the most common to less common. Of course, the most common would be W-2 income. So let me click on this. And we're going to be entering Martin's W-2 information. I guess I need to click on the button. Okay, so this is for the taxpayer, not Yvette. Regular standard W-2 form. So I'm looking on another screen at Martin's W-2 form. And the first thing it's asking is the employer's ID number. And again, I'll use the same last four digits. And it's trying to pick up from a database what other people have used, yeah? And this is a different name. I see on the W-2 Roosevelt School District, but you know what? I'm going to keep this name just to make my data entry faster. But in a real life situation, make sure you enter the correct name that you see on the W-2 form. And let's see. The address is different. I'm going to keep it what I see here. But I'm going to change the zip code to our local zip code here in Honolulu. So this address here should be what I've already entered for Martin and Yvette. Okay, box 1 of the W-2 form. His gross earnings, $93,353. The federal income tax withheld, $3,500. Um, the Social Security wages automatically get copied down from box 1, and I can see it's different on my W-2 form. So I gotta enter what I see here. And it automatically will recalculate the Social Security taxes that should match what you see on your form. Yeah? So just confirm that. You don't need to type it in, but just confirm that it's correct. And again, re-entering the Medicare wages, recalculating the Medicare tax that matches my W-2 form. I see in box 12A a retirement withholding labeled D, and the amount is $2,000. That's probably accounting for the difference you see up here between the gross taxable wages that are reduced from the Medicare and Social Security wages. Yeah, this 2000 here. Also in box 13, I see that he's participating in his employer retirement plan. State information, way down here in box 15. I'm going to pick Hawaii. And the employer's Hawaii ID number. I'm just making up stuff here, yeah? And it's copying down here in box 16 what I've entered in box 1 at the top. Sometimes it can be different, so make sure you're looking at that W-2 form. Don't assume anything automatically filled in is correct. Okay, pick up the state income taxes withheld on the W-2 form, and I think that's it. So continue. If there are other W-2 forms you need to enter, either for the taxpayer or spouse, click on this button up here. If Abby, our dependent, has a job, you would not include that on our taxpayer's tax return. Abby would have to file her own tax return, even though she's being claimed as a dependent. Here you can see the total income I've entered so far and how much federal income tax is withheld. Yeah. So is that right? No, the tax liability so far, and the Hawaii tax liability so far. I think this might be a refund. Anyway, let's continue. You will see the numbers change as we enter more information. So the next thing I see is, again, I'm looking at the PDF file. I've just finished entering the W-2 here. So I would mark off each of these amounts. So here I'll just mark off the whole form as being entered and move on to the next form. This is Yvette's 1099-R form for her retirement. If we had prepared the Willis's tax return last year, much of this information would automatically carry over when we start the current year's information, speeding up our data entry. So here's the retirement income here. So let's get that started. It's a 1099-R form. And this is for Yvette, our spouse. The ID number of the pair, 41200. And it matches what I see on the W-2 form, including the address. But I'll change the zip code to our zip code. And let's enter box 1. 22,100 is the gross pension income she received. And it automatically tries to fill in the same amount down here. But on our W-2, it's empty. Remember, we're told to use the simplified method worksheet. So let's see if it's here. Taxable amount is automatically carried. This can be corrected if necessary. Are you a public safety officer? No. So is this the link to get to the simplified method? Let me click on this link right here. Uh, it was referring to this here, but here's what I want. The simplified method worksheet. Okay, so this is the rules here, which I won't go over. Let's continue. And the gross for the years is 22,100. And the costs that she had put in over her work life is reported on the 1099-R form right here in box 9B. So again, this is her cost that she's going to recover tax-free over her or their joint lives. I got to go back and look at the facts again. 15,000. So that's what I'm entering here in this box. And the date that she started to collect her pension. Let's go back to the facts. Again, if this were if we had done this return in a previous year, all of this would automatically be entered in the software, assuming that we're using the same software as the previous year. Let's see. Right in this paragraph right here, she retired on November 1st, 2022, and she's already gotten back tax-free in those previous years, 1259. Let me get my number straight. November 1st, 2022. November 1st, 2022. There's no tax-free death benefit. Usually this would be in the first year um, the retiree had passed away. Um, let's see, check here if the annuity benefits are based on the life of the annuitant and the beneficiary. Now, what does it say in the facts here? Here it is. It's a joint and survivor. So it's based on not just Yvette's life, but also Martin's life. So we check here if the annuity benefits are based on the lives of the annuitant. That's Yvette and a beneficiary. That should be Martin. Yeah, joint lives. Combined calculated ages at the start. So on this date, based upon the birth dates we've already entered back here in this basic information, the total of their ages was 125 years old. Again, not in the year 2024, 2025, but back here when they first started to collect Yvette's annuity, Yvette's pension. Adjust the calculated age of the annuitants if different. So I'm not going to do that. I'm assuming this is correct here. And then a month she got paid, every month she's getting a payment, so that's 12 months for the year. And how much she's received tax free in previous years. Again, this would be automatically filled in for us if we had done the tax return in our software. But here we've gotten this number. And how would they get this number here? They would look at the previous year's tax return or automatically filled in um, if we're continuing from the previous year, 1259. And this is just keeping track that we don't go over that $15,000 tax-free costs um, that we saw on the tax form. Okay, not public safety officer. We're not contributing anything from this pension into a qualified charitable distribution. This wouldn't apply since this is not an individual retirement account, like mentioned down here. So let's continue. And here it's calculating how much is taxable out of that, what was it, 22,000, 22,100. The amount that is taxable according to the simplified method worksheet that's automatically done for us is this 21,519. Now I'm doing this using the 2024 software. I'm presuming 2025 has the same calculations, you know, and probably so because really the calculations is based upon what happened when they first started to collect the pension, collect the annuity, which is a couple years ago. So presume 2024 and 2025, a couple years ago, the amounts won't change, you know. So let's continue. Okay, and let's continue. Okay, distribution code. Okay, that's something I forgot here. I got the gross. We just came from this link. The distribution code is in box 7 right here. So I got to go back to my tax form. Let me show you that. Probably need to check off this box here, pick up this withholding and this code right here. I think this is picked up already, but let me double check. Not the determinable 2210 7. Not determinable. Again, this is not really that important because we've already done this here. Federal income tax. What was it? I have short-term memory loss. 2210. Yeah, 2210. And code 7 in box 7. Code 7 in box 7. Okay, nothing else here, yeah? Everything else we already picked up. Okay, so let's continue. Did we make an early withdrawal because of a qualified disaster? No. Continue. If you have another 1099-R form, you can create one or enter one by clicking on this plus button. Okay, we don't have any. Yeah, the Social Security is entered in another screen, not this one, which is right here. We just came from this one here, yeah? So let's go ahead and enter Yvette Social Security benefits. So the benefit from box 5 of the SSA 1099, SSA 1099, box 5, 24,496. 24,496. And the income taxes withheld from box 6, 2450. And the Medicare premiums that were withheld, here off in the margin, 2220. In case they're going to be claiming itemized deductions, we don't have to enter it anyplace else but right here on this same screen. Okay, you know what? I got it wrong. The taxpayer is Martin, yeah? So let's see if I can copy it down here. I'm just selecting and control dragging it. And let me go back and erase. Yeah, so if it, in our case, it doesn't matter because it will be combined, the spouses, yeah, amounts together. Continue. So we just came from this screen here. Let's continue. So we got the W-2 income. We got the retirement and Social Security income. So what's next on our list here? Cancellation of debt. This credit card that was forgiven, $850. So where would we find that? Probably under this miscellaneous here. Or this other. Looks like it's right here under this other. Yeah. So let's begin We're looking for 1099C. Here, 1099C. Cancellation of debt. This is Martin. The creditor's name, New Bank. ID 31700. What was the amount? 850. That's it. Continue. Continue. We just came from here. Continue. We just came from here. Let's see if before I move on, let's see what else do we have. So I just finished this. Okay, we don't have a tax form for the prize money that Yvette won. I think it was 500 here in our notes. This amount here, prize drawing. I think it's under this gambling. Let's see if there's anything else here. Let me go back a step by clicking on this continue button. Okay, all these are tax forms. Okay, it must be here. I don't have a W2G form like from a casino, but let's go here anyway and see if there's something I can enter. No, it's asking for the name of the person that paid it, and we're not given that information. So let me go back a step, cancel this. Other income not reported elsewhere. Let's try that. This is for Yvette. And on this drop-down list, what I'm here, prize and awards. Now, what was the amount? You can see I have short-term memory loss, yeah? Oh, it's not here. There's no tax form. Okay, I already marked it off here. $500. No. What am I doing? 500. It's not work income. This word earn means you have to work, yeah? This is prizes, yeah? Continue. Continue. Did I pick up all the income? Let's confirm by looking at our intake sheet. I should be going down each item that's checked off here. We had one W2 form, yeah? One that we've already completed for Martin. Retirement income, we had one 1099-R form. Social Security, we had the SSA 1099 form for Yvette. We would ask them any other income they have, maybe interest from a bank account. Could be as small as $1. We still would need to report it. They're not showing us any tax forms for interest or dividend or investments. Here's that prize income, yeah? And again, I would note it here. You have $500 of price income. Okay, these are deductions here. Okay, and let's see. Probably it's the state income taxes withheld from Martin's pay they're referring to here. Although I would ask them if they own any their home and pay real estate taxes. Okay, contributions. This is the $1,000 um, on the Martin's W-2 form. Okay, so I'll check that off. I would ask him also if they have maybe an IRA account in addition to Martin's retirement account with his employer. Here's that amount we've already entered already for Martin's expenses. This is talking about Abby, and we need to look at her 1098 form. Here's the 1099-C we've already entered. Okay, let's go work on that 1098-T. This is not a deduction, but a tax credit. When we have qualifying educational costs in excess of any scholarship, that excess will be used to calculate out education credits. In this case, the better of two, the American Opportunities versus the Lifetime Learning Credit, because Abby, our student, is more than half time, wasn't convicted with any drug felonies. What else do we need? This credit, American Opportunities, wasn't used for more than 4 different tax years. In our case, she's a second year college student. Um, Let me calculate out the amounts I'm going to be using. So here I have a scratch paper of a spreadsheet. So the cost is tuition, 5,722. That's this amount here. And the tuition, which we got to reduce, minusing out 3202. But also we're told there's some textbooks and supplies required for her classes here on this form. Parking doesn't count. Here, this bookstore charge, 1,500. So adding up the two costs and minusing out the scholarship, $4,020. Okay, so let's go find in the software where we enter that. We're done with income, yeah? I can click on continue and eventually we'll go to the deduction section. But let me just jump to deductions right here. And there's different types of deductions. Yeah, before I forget, Martin's deductions. This educator deduction is a type of deduction called adjustment versus itemized. Yeah, so let's go in here first. Adjustments. Educator expense. The maximum is 300. Now, what are we told? It's back in the notes. Right here, 275. 275 for Martin. Continue. I don't have any other adjustment deductions here. Let's continue. Take a step back. And on this screen, we just came from adjustments. But now for the education credit, I gotta go into this screen over here, education credits. You can always keep your eye on here, yeah? These numbers. This is my tentative federal refund. Here's the tentative tax due for Hawaii. Foreign, child dependent care. Here's what I want. The child tax credit, which we don't qualify for, and other dependent, other relative credit, which we do qualify for, is not on this list because it should be automatically calculated for us. Okay, education credits. This is for Abby, our student. Yvette or Martin are not students. We got the 1098 form. He even told we got information from the previous year. Did the student receive with box? We were told the box 7, if you read the facts, it wasn't checked off. So you don't have to make any adjustment because it changes from the prior year. Continue. Okay, I'm looking at the 1098T form. And you can download your own by going into your MyUH account. There should be a link somewhere to download your form after the year is over. Okay, so I'm looking at this information here. Clark Community College. Let's just enter the ID. 38800. I'll just make up an address here. Okay, and then continue. Oh, I didn't have to do my spreadsheet. You should be calculating for me here. So tuition, that's 5722. Scholarships, grants, 3202. And other qualifying costs. Again, this 15. And even though the total is 4,020, the computer should automatically limit it to, I believe, 4,000 and use that 4,000 in calculating a percentage of that as the credit. Watch what happens over here if I continue. This refund, well, I got to answer these questions before the refund changes here. Has the American Opportunities Credit been used for 4 prior years for this specific student? That's Abby. And we answer no. She's only in her second year. But you got to track how many years. Yeah. Freshman, sophomore, um, senior, junior. Yeah. And she's more than half time, or at least half time. Did she complete 4 years? Again, this is the freshman through senior. This is for 4 different tax years, like 2022, 2023, yeah, 2024. This is freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Has she completed her first 4 years? No. She's in her second year. Did the student have any felony drug convictions? No. Continue. Watch the refund. Wait a minute. No credit or deduction lifetime credit. Here's our credit. Did that refund change? Let's try again. Continue. Come on. Credit. Well, let's continue and see. It's still calculating here. Look at the big jump in the refund here for federal. No Hawaii credit for education. Continue. I think I'm done with credits. I just came from here. Credits. Continue. I don't have any other taxes to calculate, so I continue. Any outside of payments from withholdings, yeah, would be entered here. I've already entered, I believe, the withholdings. Continue. Miscellaneous forms, I don't think I need any of these. You may see ID PIN numbers being required if the taxpayer has some kind of identity theft problem, which we don't have here. Continue. Affordable Care Act, you would see this form provided by the taxpayer, 1095A. We don't have any, yeah, so no. Continue. State, if there's any adjustments we need to make for state, adding more income, subtracting more deductions, any type of tax credits, we would edit the Hawaii return here. Okay, I'm just going to bypass this. If I had to guess, I would back out Yvette's retirement income here on the Hawaii return. That's not always the case, yeah, but I would have to investigate further. Look at their prior return, see what they did. Possibly retirement income that is funded by the employer would be backed out here on the Hawaii return. Taxable on the federal, here in this AGI, but should be tax-free on the Hawaii return, which is not automatically done. Okay, but I'm going to bypass that. Continue. So here's a summary screen showing you the 1040 form. Here's Martin's wages, line 1A. Here is in line 5, the gross pension received by Yvette and the taxable amount from that simplified method worksheet. Here's the gross Social Security, and here's the taxable amount. And one way to calculate if this is probably the correct number in the taxable amount, 20,822, if the taxpayer has a moderate amount of other income, here looks like $50,000 or $60,000 of other income besides Social Security, up to 85% of this gross is going to be taxable. So let me just calculate that out on a calculator. That's 496. That's this gross amount here. If I multiply that by 85%, 20,822, and that's what I see right over here, 2822. So I'm probably on the right track. Yeah. Here's additional income, 1350. This should be the cancellation of debt and the prize money. Total. And here's the 250 being subtracted for Martin's classroom costs. Subtotal. Standard deduction. This 3750 is more than the 29,200 you see here because Yvette, you can see this box checked off here, is age 65 or older. So they get a little bit additional standard deduction. Now keep in mind, this is 2024. For the year 2025, this standard deduction should be increased. Also, there's a new deduction that should be right over here, inserted right over here for taxpayers age 65 or older. I believe it's another $6,000 per taxpayer that's age 65 or older. But because I'm using the 2024 software, you don't see that over here. That's a new line. Okay? Reducing the taxable income you see here. And if I go to the next page, that should reduce the amount of tax you see over here. Okay, so this is not the correct answer for 2025. Yeah. Now, how much taxes have I already paid? 3,500 withheld from Martin's pay. This 46,660 should be from Yvette's retirement income and Social Security income. I probably need to go back and double check. Now, this $500 is the other dependent credit for Yvette. This $1,500 credit is part of the education credit. Another $1,000 credit down here is part of the education credit. Reducing all of this gross tax liability up here, leaving an overpayment of $53.81 that our taxpayers probably want to have direct deposited into their bank account. So I'm still not done yet. I got to enter that direct deposit information. So did they request to have it direct deposited? Should be a check off here someplace on the intake sheet. Let me see if I can search for it. I'm going to just try search this. It's right here. Okay, they want it direct deposited. Okay, so let me continue with the software. In fact, let me go to another screen here. What's the next page? Other income. So here is the cancellation of debt. Here's that price, if it's price, the subtotal that's carried back to the 1040 form. I'm going to just jump to the next screen here. Continue. Let's see. We've already done the 1099-R, again, using that simplified method. So I don't need to go back into here. It's just saying that the amount taxable is not the same as the gross amount. Okay, so we finished with this screen here. We don't charge any fees, so we just go to the next screen. Continue. I'm gonna do something here. Oh, what are we gonna do with this overpayment refund? Well, we're gonna have it direct deposited. We cannot e-file the return here in Practice Lab. Yeah, we're just preparing, assuming a paper return we can print out, really a PDF version with a direct deposit. Hawaii return, there's taxes due. The main reason why is the withholding on Martin's W-2 was so small. And again, we didn't back out any of probably Yvette's pension that we should have done on Hawaii. I'm going to do, let's see, paper return. Paper, yeah? We're not going to e-file like you probably would do in a real return. And continue. We don't charge any fees here at VITA. Just continue. So here's the bank information for direct deposit. It's a checking account, Now, what was the name of the bank that's on the check? That's the last document given to us. New Bank and Trust. Routing number. Again, you should double check, yeah? I'm just going to copy this. You should really type it in to be doubly sure that you got the right number here. Bank account number. That's the second number on the bottom here. And the dollar amount. Here I'm going to pull it from the return of 5,381, 5381. We could split it among different accounts here, but everything's going to go into this one checking account. Continue. And not required by VITA, but we did confirm the taxpayer's ID by looking at their photo ID, probably driver's license. Do I need to fill this in? For professionals, they would have to confirm, yeah, but I'm just going to continue here. I'm going to say not provided. But again, professionals should be doing this. And if the taxpayer has agreed to have the information carried over to next year so other sites can also use automatic carryover, I'm going to assume yes. And make up a PIN number. What do we do? I'm just going to make up some digits here. And today's date. So these questions here are based upon how they answer the last few set of questions on the intake sheet. Not critical to do the tax calculation, yeah? So I'm going to bypass entering this information here. Move on to the next screen. And what is this here? Okay, you can bypass this screen. Okay, we don't have the taxpayers sign here. They're going to be signing a printed form, a Form 8879, to give us permission to electronically file. In our case, we're not electronically filing, we're paper filing here. So to generate that paper file copy, probably we should do this one here, quality review. So whoever's reviewing the return after you can use this and the input screens, yeah? So here's a PDF version of the software. I need to probably double check this, but because this is taking over an hour already, I'm not going to go over in detail. But let's look at the 1040 form. This is what you should be doing to answer the questions. Here's the 1040 form. Yeah. So quickly looking back at the questions. Questions. What is the taxable portion of Yvette's pension? That's from that Liberty Enterprise 1099R. Here in line 5, here's the gross amount And here's the taxable amount, 21,519, right here. The Willises are not eligible to claim the other dependent, a credit for other dependent. They are claiming. Now, where am I looking? Tax return, right here. Credit for other dependent, checked off. Here on the next page, that's this $500 credit, reducing the tax liability. Not eligible. That's a false statement. They are eligible. What is the total amount of income tax reported on the Willis's form? Total amount of other income on Schedule 1. Schedule 1. It is reported here, 3150, yeah, coming from Schedule 1. Again, that's this page right here. The subtotal down here. Cancellation of debt income, price income. What was it, that 1350? Martin is eligible to deduct qualified education expense in the amount of, limited to 300, but he paid less than that. Deducted right here, coming also from Schedule 1, really page 2 of Schedule 1, 275. Yeah, enter the amount here. A higher standard deduction is available when a taxpayer is, we've seen Yvette, age 65 or older based upon her birth date here. This checkoff tells us that we're not using the senior form here, 1040 SR. So we cannot use directly this amount of standard deductions. You got to look in the instructions to see an additional amount. And again, this is 2024 standard deduction. Your 2025 standard deduction is going to be larger, plus the additional amount for Yvette being age 65 or older. So we weren't asked the dollar amount, but here, higher than normal because of age 65 or older, yeah? And let's see, which of the following expenses do not qualify for American Opportunities? We saw the parking pass don't qualify. 21, the taxable amount of Yvette's Social Security. Again, limited to 85% of the gross Social Security benefits. Here's the gross, and here's the taxable amount here. What is the Willis's total federal income tax withholdings? I would go back to the source forms and add up all those amounts. Add up all these amounts here. Let's see if I can do that, point it out quickly. Nothing here, nothing here. This amount right here, withheld. Plus this amount withheld. And this 3,500 withheld. Yeah? Does that answer the question? What's the question again? Wrong screen. What am I looking for? Total federal income tax withholdings. Yeah, those three amounts. Whatever the total is, yeah, is your answer. At the same time, you should be answering the retest questions for the same scenario. And by looking at the retest questions, it kind of will give you a hint of possibly what the correct answers here are for the test questions. For example, the dollar amount here may show up as a multiple choice answer in the retest. Okay, let me stop here. If you have questions, email me. I may make another video when the 2025 version of the software becomes available. Okay, talk to you later.